Hi, I'm Kevin Stewart, and we are backstage today at FCC's Forums, today with Robert Herjavec. How do you say it?
Herjavec, close
Herjavec.
enough.
Okay.
As Joan Rivers says, I don't care what you call me, as long as you call me.
Well, listen, tell me then what we know. Rather than introduce you, tell me something about Robert Herjavec that we don't know from a Google search.
Wow, the beauty of the internet is you probably know everything. You know, I'm what you see on TV. I'm the same guy. I think that's the one comment people always say to my wife and my friends. Is he really like that? And absolutely. Someone just asked me, is Kevin really like that on TV? And the answer is, yeah, he really is like that, and so am I. You can't cheat 12 hours a day for 20 days in a row.
You talk about sometimes it's good to be lucky. Tell me your perspective on some people who don't think they're lucky, who think everything that's wrong in their life is because bad luck. Tell me your perspective between not being lucky and making your own luck, if you choose to use that word.
We have this argument with business people all the time. So I believe that the harder you work, the luckier you get. But there's a difference between luck and opportunity. So I think every day, each of us is presented with 20 doors. You could call those luck. Whether you decide to go through that door or not, that's up to you. So I think you create your own opportunity, but we're constantly presented with luck in our lives.
Now, you said you're lucky to have grown up on a farm.
I was very lucky to grow up on a farm. I think it shaped a lot of what I am. Number one, it makes you very humble. I don't think I've ever met somebody who grew up on a farm that's really full of themselves. I mean, I think that when you work that hard and you work in the dirt and you work with your hands, although I haven't worked with my hands for a long time, there's a humility. And I think there's a humility to hard work, which equals progress. I think that most people that grow on a farm understand life is long. I've never been a get rich quick. I've never been a multi-level marketing, scheming kind of guy. Let's make a fast buck. I've always understood that you got to put the dedication and the time in.
Yeah, for some people who didn't see you at the Farm Credit Forums, you talked about a story about a blind dog. Tell us that story and why you tell it.
It's a great story. I go to the farm last year with the CBC crew with my daughter, and we see a dog, and my uncle's dog, who still lives on the same farm I grew up in, and the dog comes over, and the dog's blind in both eyes, and he's kind of limping, and he's growling at me. So there's this blind dog going, "Grrr." And so I look at the dog, and I look at my uncle, and I go, he can't walk, and he's blind. And my uncle says, yeah, but he has a great sense of smell. and it's a funny way for me to talk about, which is one of the core lessons I try to teach people, is you got to focus on your strengths. It's funny, I was talking to Haley about that, and she says the same thing. You know, what I tell people is nobody pays Peyton Manning to block. Nobody pays Peyton Manning to run the ball. In fact, if he runs the ball, they get really mad. To compete on a world-class level, you got to take the stuff that you're good at and become great at it and let your weaknesses go.
You've been very successful regardless of how you define success, but you said that you don't have all the answers, but you do know some things that work. Tell us about a few of the things that work.
Well, it's funny. I think it's an ongoing process. So people, the question I most hate is people say, oh, why are you so successful? And I say, well, the minute you think you're successful, it's the beginning of the end. So it's a journey. So I've been fortunate, but I think there's still a lot of room to go. You know, I think some of the keys are all the stuff that your mom and dad told you. Show up early, you know, be on time, be respectful to others, dress appropriately, don't be rude. I mean, I think all those things, don't take shortcuts, love what you do. I think those are all the basics that you got to put in.
You have a book partially titled Driven. Tell me the significance of that word.
So when we were doing the book, the publisher said, one-word titles sell better than multi-word titles. So I said, okay, great. But we couldn't find a one-word title that kind of described me. So the publisher suggested send an email to all your friends and tell them as soon as they open the email to email back one word that hops in their mind that describes you. And besides the obvious, well, you're a beep and a beep, that's the one word that came back. And it's funny, if, you know, I've never been the smartest guy, I've never been the tallest guy, I've never been the best looking guy, never been the most charming guy, but I've always been the most driven guy. I think that's the one thing that I always remember. I was always willing to outwork the next guy.
In leadership in business circles, it's often talked about the role of helping people improve their story as well as continually improving your own story. What could you do to improve your story from here?
That's a great point. I think that, and this is going to seem shocking to people that know me today, one of the hardest things I had to learn was the value of your brand. One of the things being in the computer business and where I came from as a geeky computer guy with the big thick glasses, I was the guy in the corner. I was the guy who said, you know what, just do your job, the world doesn't need to know about it. Now, one thing I've really learned about being on TV, and I see this with a lot of farmers who tend to be a little shy, I think you got to be out there. I think you've got to have a sense of confidence that exudes from you. The reality is, and we see this on the show, that nobody wants to invest in somebody who doesn't believe in themselves. So in the book, I call this humble arrogance. You can't be so full of yourself that you turn people off, but on the flip side, being the wallflower in the corner doesn't get you ahead either. You know, I think for me, I just don't think in those terms. I think that every day I wake up and I want to do a little better than I did the day before. So life is just a constant challenge. You know, I have a plane and I meet Mark Cuban, who films on our U.S. show, and Mark is the 400th richest guy in the world. So think about that. The 400th richest guy in the world. And I look at that and I think, why not me? Because the reality in business is you keep score with money. So I don't look at the money. I don't need more money. I'm thrilled with everything I have. But I just think that you can do more. I can do more. And most people watching can probably do more than they're doing today.
Robert, listen, yours is a very compelling story, and I appreciate you sharing a portion of it with us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.